Welcome back everyone to another episode of Master Duel Challenger Cup winner deck lists, and it's already week number 8 that has surpassed us last week. That's already 2 months of action being gone, only one more to go. The tournaments we had over the course of the week you can see right here. None of the really big ones, only one 512 player one, but still a couple of really interesting decks that are worth checking out. If you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and maybe even like the video. And now we are getting into the action. The first deck list we have is by MRTDGL, who won the 64 player cup by Julio. It is a very standard Sword Soul list. Do we see any innovation? No. Does his deck need any innovation? Probably not. Therefore, just a really good deck that does its job and brought MRTGL the title. But he did not only play that, he, on the other hand, played also a really interesting and really innovative deck. And a deck that I have a personal relationship to as well. He played Endymion Mythical Beasts Pendulum, which is a beautiful, strong combo deck. And the reason he played that deck specifically was because this deck has an amazing matchup versus Runic Stun. You're not supposed to lose with this deck to Runic Stun. He played versus Runic Stun in the semis. He played versus Runic Stun in the finals. He brought this list versus both of them. It worked out like a charm. He made a really good call to counter Runic Stun, so definitely chapeau to him, taking down the first Challenger Cup of week number 8. Then we go over to the Turner Cup. 64 players, won by Nussberger. Shoutouts to Nussberger. He defeated me in the semifinals of this in top 4. And he played a Despia list. This is a little bit of innovation because he plays the Despia comedy, which is not, or Despian comedy rather, which is not super standard. Besides that, the hand trap ratio is maybe a little bit weird with double Ash and double Maxi. You probably want to consider playing more or less of those cards, and probably rather more, to be honest. And besides that, just a pretty cool Despia list, and that was not the only list he submitted. He also had a Fluander Reese list, and this Fluander Reese list is a going second list for Top Cut. He also used that versus me, and it's crazy. Swords of Concealing Light, one Dark Ruler, one Lightning Storm, one Feather Duster, double Ultimate Slayer. This is crazy stuff, and I actually played Runic Stun, I think, versus this, and so all of the cards did not really do that much versus me, but in general, this deck list looks scary going second, and I do understand why he wanted to have it in his arsenal. And then we go over to the next cup, another cup by Julio, 32 players, and it was won by Matrix. And regulars here on the channel know that Matrix has won a bunch of Challenger Cups already. He even won the big 1024 player Challenger Cup that netted him a PlayStation 5. And he keeps on playing, he keeps on grinding. He's a true grinder, I appreciate it. He beat me in the finals of this, I gotta say. So he definitely is having a good record versus me as well. Pretty standard and really good looking Despia list. Interesting to say is that he is deciding not to run any of the Mercuriers or Branded Losses. So he just cut out on that engine and just made it even more straightforward, and definitely a pretty good deck all around. Then he also used this Despia list, as you can see, with Cosmics in the deck. So just tailoring, targeting the Runic Stun or the back row decks in general. And then after that, he also had a Sword Soul list. Nothing too crazy there either. As we said earlier, this deck needs no innovation, so please don't try to innovate it, as it is working perfectly fine just as it is. And this is a going first Sword Soul list with D barriers in the main deck. So if you know that you're playing versus Despia or Sword Soul, going first, this is just a really good call. Bringing us over to the next Challenger Cup, and that is the one by... There's a little bit of a mistake in there, because this is not Trump but Trape, and the Trape Cup was won by Baka Bakura, and he brought Runic Stun. Pretty interesting list, or not a really interesting list, but interestingly enough, this is the exact same main deck list that I have been using for a bunch of tournaments as well. Our extra deck differs a little bit, but the extra deck is not really that relevant for the deck anyways. So kind of interesting that we just ended up on the exact same main deck list. And I mean, I can confirm to you guys this list is working, so definitely no complaints from my side. Next tournament was the one by Fafa, 32 players, and there you see him again. Matrix just winning his second Challenger Cup of the week. Did not change too much here from his lists. His standard list, I asked him, what did you specifically change? And he was like, I replaced the Imperms in the main deck for Veilers. So he rather wanted to have Veilers than Imperms. Probably that is because of the existence of so many board breaks in the format. Like a bunch of people are playing Lightning Storm and stuff like that. So you rather want to have the Veiler in the hand than the Imperm set when you are going first. And he actually just did the exact same thing with his Sword Soul list. He played Imperms before and replaced them with Veilers. So maybe that should be something you guys should consider as well, as he is a very, very successful player in the competition. And then after that, the cup by Riley 1-for-1 was won by Lampy. And hey, that's me. We finally did it. In total, we have now topped 9 Challenger Cups, and this week also brought our first victory. We took it down, and this is just our pretty standard runic stun list that we used throughout all of that. There can be only one, it's just the best floodgate you can have at the moment. At that point, it was still at 3. From now on, it will be at 2, so we have to come up with different solutions, but yeah. Pretty standard. I think Desires is a really decent card in the deck. Some people don't like it, but I think it's very decent overall, and I would continue playing it. And I did not only play that version of the deck, I faced a couple of Mathmech decks in a tournament, and whenever I knew I would be up against Mathmech, I just instantly went with my Runic versus Mathmech list, in which I threw out the rivalries and replaced them by Gozen matches. So just a quick, easy change, but that's just better in general versus the Mathmech deck. And this is my prepared deck list versus Despia. So if I know my opponent is on a Despia deck and he's not going to change it most likely, I just bring this list. There can be only one there is really bad, and therefore we rather want to have D-barriers, rivalries, and Gozen matches. And that was not all. We then also went with a list that is tailored towards going second. In the top 4, I played versus Sword Soul guy. And this is my going second list with There Can Be Only One. So I have like going second lists with different floodgates. And of course, I'm reducing the number of floodgates in general. But yeah, evenlies, maxis. So we are trying to counter the big advantage of not going first, and therefore we have a going second runic list as well. It worked very, very good. I went on to 2-0 my top 4 opponents, and therefore it was definitely the correct call. And then in the finals, in game 1, I was like, hey, I have to bring Salad now. It's one of my favorite decks of all time too. I brought this in game number 1. It was successful. We won the coin toss. I think we started D-Barrier, and the Sword Soul opponent just had no chance. Or it could have been Despia as well. But like, D-Barrier put in the work, and therefore this list was really successful for me. The deck even gets a buff now with the new list, Gazelle going to 3, so that's really cool. And I'm definitely looking forward to playing it even more. And then that was all of my lists. I'm very happy to present you myself as a winner now. But moving on to another guy that is just even more of a champion. Yes, you are reading correctly. This is not a mistake. Matrix won his 3rd Challenger Cup in this week. He won the 128-player cup by Jubel as well. This is his Despia list. It is just straight up the same list that he used for the 2nd cup that he won in the week as well. And that's also the same Sword Soul list that he used. So he didn't need anything else. He's just that good with those 2 lists. But he also did use the going first lists with the D-barriers in here. We talked about that before. D-barrier going first, just really good versus Despia and Sword Soul. And he also, this time, brought a Despia list that is just tailored towards the Sword Soul matchup with token collectors in the main deck. And not only that, but he also brought a Sword Soul list tailored towards the Despia matchup. And here's a card we haven't seen a whole lot in competition, but that was a little bit of a tech card in TCG for some time. Foolish Return. And Foolish Return is really good because it is basically Called by the Grave or DD Crow or Ghost Bell, but contrarian to DD Crow and Ghost Bell, this card cannot be met with Called by the Grave, which is right next to it. So this plays around Called by the Grave, really good. Versus the Despia matchup, when you know that you're up versus that deck, it's really, really strong. And I do think he made a correct call there once again. Then we have the Sulu Cup. 512 players, and the winner of this one was good old Mr. Joey Kuzan. He has won a Challenger Cup before, and he won this one as well. Really, really, really big stuff. He played a Sword Soulist. I, funnily enough, played versus him in round 1 of this tournament. Like, how unlucky can you be getting paired up versus the eventual winner in round 1 already? But yeah, he was prepared for Runic Stun with Evenlies in the main deck, Feather Dusters, and all that kind of stuff. That is a deck list that should be playing pretty well versus back row, and in general, just Sword Soul is pretty versatile. But he did not only bring that, he also brought some Fluandereeze, which is a pretty decent deck as well. Sometimes he doesn't feel like combos, so he goes with this deck. And then he himself is a Runic Stun enjoyer from time to time as well. So that's his Runic Stun deck list there as well. But also, I'm like a little bit curious about the Solemn Judgment. And also, I don't know whether I would play Upstart Goblins over One Day of Peace. Like, at least make it one Day of Peace. But, I mean, that list worked out for him. So, shoutouts to Joey once again. Absolute crusher of the competition. And then we had the Mangaka 96 Cup. 128 players, and Compi Distrutor took it down, and he played a pretty interesting Mathmech list, because he did play the Link Intra Flyer, the Backup Secretary, and the Gachiri Ignister, also main decking 1 red Reboot. So this is not your standard Mathmech list. It's a rather interesting one, with more Cybers cards being thrown into the deck, more extenders generally speaking, and I'm interested in what you guys think about this list. Does Mathmech need more extenders like that? Is it just for small world bridges, or what do you think? Is that the way to go for Mathmech, or shall we rather stick it to the stuff that we had before? Well, that was the only list of him. And then last tournament of the week, Vince Challenger Cup, 128 players, and Alex00000 managed to win his second Challenger Cup as well. Congratulations to him. He played this Mathmech list. He also played the Link Intrafly, and also, interestingly enough, he played Spell Cancel in the main deck. Of course, amazingly well versus the Runic matchup. He told me in DMs, though, this card was absolutely not the call. It didn't put in the work, and he should have just not played it. Worked out for him, though. Then he played a Striker list, my favorite deck of all time, still being represented in here. Just a lot of hand traps, DD Crows, Ghost Bells, Vader, Ash, Maxi, and all that kind of stuff. Worked out for him as well. He played that in Swiss and in Top Cut. And then he had himself also a Runic Stun list. As you can see here, just a bunch of Floodgates. And honestly, I don't really know. You guys can also let me know in comments. What do you think about the Call by the Grave? I don't think you need that in Runic Stun, but he decided to run it anyways. And what else do we have? Yeah, he had the Flunder deck as well. And this is, of course, a Flunder list for going first in Top Cut. He got a cut 1-dimension shifter from today on. But yeah, D-Barriers, Solemn Judgments, so just absolutely heavily going first. Nothing to really think about there. Just get your Judgment, get your D-Barrier, and you are going to be fine. But he also had a Flu list for Swiss, actually. So this is the list that he also played in Swiss, and I don't even know, he could have even played that in Top Cut too. And then after that, we also have his Zoo list. He loves to play Zoo. We've seen that before, the other time he won a Challenger Cup. And this Zoo list, it just looks so clean. It's just such a small amount of different cards. Look how big the cards appear here. Pankratops is beautiful. Shifter, another Shifter deck, of course. It's a good card, we know that. Cosmics, Chalice. It's easy, it's simple. You're playing Zeus Turbo. You are having a good shot going second, so this is his main pick when he has to go second in Top Cut, and I do totally understand why. And then we have his last list, another going second deck when he has to go second in Top Cut. Just a lot of hand traps in Ignister, so you are throwing a bunch of hand traps, a bunch of interruptions on your opponent's turn into a deck which does not need a whole lot of cards to play with on their own. If you start with one Achichi, one Pikari, you can mostly just combo with that one card, or you can mostly just OTK, get into access code, update Jammer OTK, and therefore I think I really like the approach of having that as a going second option as well. You don't need Danmaria and stuff like that, because you're just trying to OTK on the first turn you are playing, which is turn number 2 of the duel, and therefore I do really understand his approach, also only going with one Dojon, and a bunch of hand traps in general. So this was week number 8 of the Master Duel Challenger Cup competition. I think it's quite interesting, as we also had the first event in America happening, the first MCS. So we are comparing America and Europe now a lot better. in general, I would say I like the EU list a little bit more. I mean, we have 2 weeks of competition already, so we are a lot ahead in terms of preparation and compared to them. But still, I'm interested to see how the Challenger Cup competition develops from now on, because there's still the biggest Challenger Cup to go. Over 2K players will be entering the cup at the end of February. I cannot wait for the results of that, and that's all going to be covered here on this channel as well, of course. Thank you, everyone. I'm done for the day, as you can tell. Thank you, everyone, for watching the video. Appreciate you being here on the channel, and see you soon for another video.